Joseph Lee, absolute pleasure.
Such a pleasure.
Thank you for having us here today.
Absolutely.
Thank you for opening up your great art space for us, your workspace for us. You're nominated for an Emmy for Outstanding Supporting Actor in the tragicomedy, which is a dark-humoured, brilliant piece of work by Netflix called Beef.
Yes.
So you must be feeling pretty good about that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm ecstatic. Yeah. I mean, it's tough to. I mean, just to even hear it, it's just. Yeah. It's so thrilling, and I'm just having a time of my life right now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've got 20 questions, Mr. Feelgood questions. These are the questions that we designed to get to the heart of what matters, really. So I just want to kick it off with Joseph Lee. Who are you?
Who am I? I'm Joseph Lee. I'm a visual artist and an actor. And I guess I'm still trying to figure that out, to be honest with you. I'm ever evolving. I'm full of mistakes and always trying to learn from them, always trying to grow. And I guess I'm a bit of a walking contradiction. I'm kind, but can be very stubborn and hard-headed. I tend to work alone, but really value collaboration. And I'm very confident, yet also very insecure. So I guess it's just really a long-winded way of saying that I'm all these things, just depending on the day.
Wow, you're really honest and transparent and articulate about how you see yourself. That's beautiful. How are you feeling right now? How do you feel right now?
I'm feeling present. Yeah. I'm in my safe space, in my workspace. I always love having visitors around. We're having a good chat. We just finished up with a great shoot. I'm just having a good time, so there's really nothing else to think beyond that.
Okay. Where did you grow up and what was it like?
I moved around as a kid. I was born in Phoenix, Arizona, spent a brief part of my childhood in Flushing, Queens. And I went through puberty in West Lafayette, Indiana, so that's where I would consider home. My childhood there was very simple. I didn't really have access to a lot of the things that I do today, but nonetheless, it was a place where I really enjoyed just grounding myself with sports. I played a lot of football, basketball, just spent a lot of time outside. And also, I was a bit of a latchkey kid, and so my mom was always working. And so I spent a lot of time just kind of almost just raising myself in front of a television.
Right.
Spent a lot of time drawing, doodling, and really just kind of always lost in my own imagination, just daydreaming.
And you're an only child, you said?
I'm an only child.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was an interesting place to grow up. The town that I grew up in, it was a college town, and so it was this great mixture of working class families and academics. And so growing up there was always this sense of valuing education and also just this real kind of salt of the earth, hard work type of mentality.
Right.
My mom, she worked at the local factory on the assembly line for 15 years.
Wow, amazing.
So, I just always kind of grew up with this hard work mentality.
Great work ethic. What excites you?
The smell of fresh paint.
Okay.
Seeing a blank white canvas always excites me. Eating junk food with my wife, and when Man United are having a good day.
Yes! Isn't it good?
Absolutely.
It sets you up for the week, right?
Yeah. I mean, if they lose, I can't even watch highlights.
I know, and we've had a lot of losses in the last season, haven't we?
It's been tough.
It's been tough. Isn't it true, though? I know I'm the same. And my boys are the same. It's a depression on a Sunday morning if they lose. It's like, okay, how do I pull myself up for the week?
But then the opposite is when they do have a good game, I will rewatch the highlights all week.
Yeah, wonderful. What scares you?
I'd say the voice of my anxieties, the voice of my insecurities, my shame, and just how loud that voice gets. It's almost like it's like a shadow that just kind of lurks behind you and just follows you around throughout the day, and you kind of walk around with this impending doom of not knowing when that voice is going to creep up and just start questioning everything about you and your self-worth. So yeah, I guess just me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're all in that boat as humans. I think that's part of the journey. What's your proudest achievement?
My marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you for saying all those kind things in the interjection, but you know, it's not to like diminish my career accomplishments, but in many ways I've been able to visualize and fantasize about the career that I have ever since I was 8 years old.
Right on.
And you know, in some ways I've been able to manifest it, but in terms of having a productive, healthy relationship, those are just things that I didn't really have examples of growing up. And so, you know, when I met my wife and I decided to dedicate myself to this partnership, it was like the full breath of life had just opened up. And you know, I'm Capricorn, and so much of my self-worth is like tied to my work ethic and work.
Right.
And I think just for the longest time, I think I just had it backwards.
Right.
You know, like the idea of working hard is fairly easy for me. The idea of like putting all of your attention and focus onto one singular thing, whether that's your craft, passion, job, career, whatever you call it, that's actually easy. I think as I get older, I find the more challenging thing is to be able to like maintain that passion while also giving yourself the same, if not more, attention and focus to your family, your marriage, friendships, your own health. And so, yeah, that's what I'm prioritizing, and it feels very natural. Like it doesn't feel forced. I just feel like as I get older, I don't know if it's like a maturation thing, but I just feel like those priorities are just kind of aligning itself.
Amazing.
So that's what I'm most proud of.
Amazing. What is the hardest thing you've ever had to do or done?
I think I can't put my finger on just one thing. I think it's more like a pattern of events, but I think it's simply just asking for help.
Oh yeah.
You know, and that ranges from like the most minuscule things to like larger things. And I think it comes from a lot of different factors. I think for one, I'm an only child, and so you know, I'm very self-reliant and very independent. Coming from a single parent mom, I think the role of being a protector and a provider, those are hats that I've worn ever since I was a kid. And then there's a cultural component to it as well.
Yeah.
It's like, I think asking for help comes with a lot of shame in
Yeah.
my culture. And so for all those reasons, it's just kind of built this wall that's tough for me to kind of chip away at times.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's generational, it's cultural, it's being an only child, it's being a man. But it's also, we're moving into a space I feel where it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
But you've got to get used to that. You've got to calibrate yourself with that, haven't you?
It's a foreign language at times, really.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Who was your greatest mentor and what did they teach you? If you had one.
I don't think I do, but that's only because my inability to ask for help.
I know, I was wondering whether you'd say your mum, you know,
Yeah.
because in a way, but anyway, it's your,
Well,
your
sure.
question
I
for
would,
you.
I would certainly include her. I have made it a point in life to always ask for advice from people that I respect.
Yeah.
Somebody that comes to mind, I had a college professor. He was a political science professor back in school. And he would always address the class by telling everybody to build a mental martial art. And I think he meant it more so within like the context of political discourse, but I kind of took it beyond the classroom and just kind of applied it to all facets. And essentially, it's this idea of like protecting yourself from the bullshit, and also feeling the liberty to be able to question things and not always taking everything at face value. And so having that healthy skepticism. And then my old boss at the restaurant that I used to wait tables at, his name is Sam Koo, and I was having a shift one of these days, and I had a couple of tables that were just giving me a tough time. And so he like took me aside and he's like, hey, let's go for a smoke break. And so we're outside, and I remember he just looked at me and said, in Korean, he said, you're not in college anymore. And there was a lot of subtext to that. The way I took it was, up to this point in your life, you've grown up within these structures, and you've grown up within these rules. And you're at a place in your life where you're going to encounter people that don't necessarily abide by those rules, and you're going to have to learn how to deal with it and navigate through that. And so it was just this like very simple, masculine yet loving way of telling me to grow up.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
And I needed to hear that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was. I remember that a lot.
That's great. Good advice. Who are your fictional and real life heroes?
Ooh. My real life hero is my mom. She's just the most creative person that I know, and it's not within the realm of art, but she was just somebody that always just loved working with her hands, with limited resources. She's a very scrappy individual, and she always struggled, yet always carried herself with class, with grace, with love, faith, and grit. And I think those are things that I've always tried to model myself after. I would have to also say my wife. My wife is somebody who has also gone through a lot in life, but chooses to always have a positive outlook, and most importantly, she emphasizes empathy. And for me, that's really inspiring, because it doesn't allow me to kind of swim in this pool of sorrow and resentment. You know? Fictional characters, John McClane, Die Hard.
Oh, yeah.
I picked up my nasty smoking habit from that guy. Guy's saving the world with no shoes on. I mean, just the coolest guy in the world. All three of James Dean's characters.
Yeah.
Jim Stark, Rebel Without a Cause, Cal Trask in East of Eden, Jet Rink and Giant. And also just, I mean, having somebody that grew up an hour from you, who's this iconic figure.
Course,
for me, it was just having that example of knowing that, wow, somebody from this area actually did that.
What age were you when you became aware of him?
I did a paper on him in the 9th grade.
Okay, wow.
In high school, and it was the first time I watched one of his movies, and I was just mesmerized.
Amazing.
Bruce Lee, everything from Fist of Fury to Chinese Connection. I mean, watching a guy that looked like me beating up colonizers on film, that was like my Marvel superhero, you know?
Yeah.
And then aesthetically, I would have to say Jeff Costello in Le Samurai.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, all these guys they just really kind of shaped my idea of somebody cool, masculine, and vulnerable at the same time. And that's what I just really always resonated with.
So a sort of combination of what it is to be a man and the qualities that you want to choose for yourself, to mold yourself into somewhat?
I guess, but at that age, you're too young to even be conscious and aware of that. But something in all of these individuals really just kind of stuck out to me.
Okay. What is your favorite item of clothing in your wardrobe?
I recently made my first big boy accessory purchase, and that's my La Mer croissant bag, and it travels everywhere with me. I love that.
A croissant bag, that's what that is. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and on top of that, my wife and I get to share it, and so it's, every penny worth it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What music did you love age 13? Do you still love it now?
I listened to music, but I didn't really start listening to music until I was a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
Malcolm Gladwell always talks about this study in psychology where the music you listen to from the ages of 18 and 19, that will become the soundtrack of your life. And for me, it was like this incredible renaissance of Midwest hip hop that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Kanye West, Lupe Fiasco, Common, Kid Cudi from Ohio. And I mean, hip hop prior to that just scared the shit out of me, which is why I loved it. But these guys really just introduced like a just a different creative take on the genre. And yeah, I mean, you know, those guys will forever be a part of my soundtrack.
Timeless music.
Totally.
You pick it up all your life and you still dig with it.
Yeah.
Completely cool. What's the most inspiring book you've ever read?
I don't have any inspiring books, but that's only because I read mostly history books. Mm-hmm. Two books that stick out would be the first time I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, as told by Alex Haley.
Alex Haley.
It's just like this incredible portrait of perseverance, self-growth, and ultimately conviction. The other book I would have to say is Overthrow by Stephen Kinzer. And it's just this incredible, it's an overview of a century's worth of US foreign policy and all of its current day ramifications because of those events. And it's just this eye-opening account of world history that is so different from what's ingrained in you through public schooling.
Okay.
And those two books really just kind of, they just changed the way that I view society.
And what age were you when you read them? And which did you read first?
I read, it was required reading to read the autobiography of Malcolm X. I read
that's
that,
good to hear.
I believe in 8th grade, I want to say. And then Stephen Kinzer I read in college, I believe.
Really?
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
I want to read the Stephen Kinzer. I read the Malcolm X. I remember finishing that and weeping because I was so moved by it.
Yeah.
And I actually wanted it to, I thought it should be, you know, put in every school.
Absolutely.
Everyone should read it. It's an extraordinary, extraordinary book. And Alex Haley, of course, amazing writer. What is a movie that left a lasting impression on you? You've mentioned a couple, but a couple of the men, the films of James Dean and Bruce Lee. But what's a recent one, maybe? Or maybe an old one. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, I could go all day, but I'll just shoot some off the top of my head. Ace Ventura 2, When Nature Calls. Jim Carrey is just my favorite actor of all time.
Amazing.
The best. Goodfellas and Casino, that's pretty much a tie for me. In my opinion, those are just two of the most perfectly constructed films. Thirst by Park Chan-wook, but that could really just be any Park Chan-wook film. He's by far my favorite filmmaker of all time. And recently, I'd have to include Zone of Interest by Jonathan Glazer. And it's kind of strange calling a Holocaust film one of your favorite movies, but watching this film, I was floored throughout the entire film. And to be honest, I'm still kind of processing the film, but just to watch something that's so boldly executed, where you really kind of throw out all the rules of narrative filmmaking, it was an experience for me, and so and that's rare, and so I'd have to include that in my list.
What is your favorite word or saying? It can be anything.
Yeah. My wife and I, we have anytime we're in an argument, we tell each other the answer is always in the middle. And it's kind of like our go-to safety quote. Okay. Where it's like, all right, neither one of us are right. The answer's somewhere in the middle, and then that usually kills the fight. And be loyal to the nightmares of your decisions.
Be loyal to the nightmares of your decisions.
Yeah.
Wow. That's an amazing expression.
Yeah, it's a quote from Joseph Conrad in Heart of Darkness.
Okay.
And yeah, it's one of those quotes where like I'll just kind of say it to myself anytime I'm feeling in a negative space, and something that just kind of comforts me, and it reminds me that, you know, sometimes you have to stick by the decisions that you choose to make, and know that the outcome will work out.
Oh, that's great. What a quote to contemplate that. Superb. What do you want people to say about you at your funeral?
I think I have a weird relationship with death. I mean, who doesn't? But and we were kind of talking about this earlier, where I lost my father about 10 years ago, and in recent time I've been trying to remember his voice, and I can't do it. It's his voice it's just kind of dissipated from my memory bank.
And no tapes, no recordings, no video? Or?
I have recordings, but they were of him when I was a baby, and so just naturally with age, you know, your voice tends to change a little bit, and so yeah, so it's kind of like this reminder that like life is fleeting, and it's not to be gloomy about it. It's actually quite the opposite, to where, you know, if you're fortunate enough to be on this earth, then you really just have to live life to the fullest. And yeah, I think that's how I would want people to come to my funeral. You know, I would hope that it's a celebratory experience, and that they could just look at this guy and say, hey, you know, he did everything he wanted to do, and regardless of how successful, you know, he went out on his own terms. And
right
so,
on.
yeah.
Quick fire 5 questions. Favorite car?
I'm not a big car guy, but I'd have to say a 1955 Porsche Spider.
Oh, okay.
550.
Okay.
And the only reason I know that is because it was the car that James Dean died in. And you know, there's that iconic photo of him. I believe it's his last photo where he's pumping gas.
It's amazing.
And yeah, it's just this metallic bullet of a car.
That's amazing.
And, yeah, that's always something that's very sexy to me.
That's not a bad motor. Sports team?
I got a couple. 93 era Phoenix Suns. It was the team that made it to the finals and lost. 90s era Bulls. 07, I might be getting the numbers wrong. 07, 08 Indianapolis Colts that won the Super Bowl. And then 08 Man United.
Yes.
The Champions League team in Moscow.
Yeah.
That team was just incredible. Park Ji-sung, Ronaldo, Rooney in his prime, elder statesmen yet still in their prime, Scholes, Giggs.
All the good boys.
Yeah.
Meal, what's your favorite meal?
A good smash burger. Yeah, I love a good smash burger.
How do you make it?
I wish I could make a good smash burger, but yeah.
How do you eat it?
Smash burger?
Yeah. What is it? Smash burger. Sorry.
It's just a burger.
Oh, it's a burger.
Yeah.
But do you like it medium rare? Do you like it rare? Do you like it well done?
Yeah, I mean it's the patty, and so it's very thin.
Okay.
And on the edges, it gets very crispy, and you melt the cheese on top, and it's a very simple thing, but it always sits well with me.
Do you have that regular, or is that a sort of treat, or do you not want to disclose that information?
No, well, we had a photo shoot today, so I disciplined myself for the week. But as soon as we're wrapped up,
You can have 4.
Yeah.
Grooming products. Favorite grooming products?
I use a lot of Korean products. I'd have to say Sarwazu. I use a lot of their moisturizers and toners.
Clothing label?
Xenia. I love Xenia. Yeah, Xenia and La Mer. I'm a big fan of La Mer as well.
So is there a question you've never been asked but would like to address? Anything that we haven't covered today? Anything you'd like to? talk about, or you're all good?
Yeah, but only because, I mean, these questions were so good.
Right.
I mean, these aren't stuff that I really
You didn't
get to talk
anticipate,
about,
and
so.
you didn't know. We didn't give you the questions before, so it's.
Yeah.
I'm really taken. I've got to say this. I'm so taken by how measured you are. Maybe it's a Capricorn in you, in your response, but how emotionally articulate you are, and how wise you are for, I mean, a young chap. You know, you really have got your shit together, and it's an absolute pleasure to be around you. And the way you think and the way you're so honest about who you are. I think it's really important that that gets out there, and I think that's so helpful for other people as well. So I do appreciate that.
Well, it's also, it's the company you keep. And so, you know, meeting people like you, you know, we just always have good conversations.
Always going to be a good conversation.
Yeah.
I know it is. I want to ask you, how's your life changed given the success of Beef?
Enormously. Yeah, it's been incredible. You know, you're so used to chasing your dreams that it's mind-bending to actually be living it. And so, yeah, I mean, every day I feel like I'm pinching myself, but most importantly, I'm just trying to stay present with it as much as I can, and just really enjoy the ride.
And how's your? I mean, you're an excellent artist. I mean, I met you a few weeks ago before Christmas, and we met and we had at a social gathering, and then I went home and Alison showed me your paintings, and I was genuinely blown away by your work. And so, how are you juggling the sort of the actor and the artist? Because I know you're out there selling your art. And your art's being shown in galleries, and it should be. So how are you finding that you're not putting enough time into your art, or do you come to your studio when you just need to close all the rest of the noise off, and is that your way of sort of recalibrating, and it's your therapy of sorts? How are you balancing that there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of all that. I think both sides just service different parts of my personality. The thing that I really value in acting is that it's a very collaborative effort. And so as soon as you're on the set, you immediately feel a sense of humility in knowing that you're just kind of this small piece to the puzzle. And on the art side, it's just purely me being narcissistic and selfish with my own time and what I want to do. And I really feel like as a creative person, having humility and ego and having that in balance is very important. And so for me, it keeps me creatively whole.
Okay, brilliant. And just lastly, just came to me, do you have any sort of, morning practice? Do you meditate? Do you swim? Do you jog? What's your sort of routine, or what's the thing that you're drawn to most to keep you composed and so present?
I like to go on jogs. I got a big dog at home, and so we live next to this park, and so we go on daily jogs. Try to go to the gym at least 3-4 times a week, and that's mostly because if I'm sitting here paying for 8 to 10 hours a day, then I just have to keep it loose physically. And then I'll just always start off with a cup of coffee. Just come in and get to work.
All right, Joseph, absolute pleasure.
Thanks.
Really,
man.
thank you for having
This
us
is
here
fun.
today. Cheers.